Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my September reading wrap up. I'm so excited to talk about the 5 amazing books that I read in September. It was such a great reading month. And then I'm also going to be doing my October TBR. I'm going to be using the TBR jar to pick some prompts and choose my October TBR. I basically have all of the unread books from my shelf. I have them here. I'm going to choose 6 books for me to read in October after I'm done talking about my September reading wrap up. So the first book that I read in September is True Colors by Kristin, and this book is about 3 sisters who live on a seaside horse ranch, and they are so different, but they've always been close, and they kind of bond over the fact that their father is very distant and cold, and they're always seeking his approval in some way, but mostly their oldest sister, that is her main problem. She's constantly seeking her father's approval, and she also struggles with her body image. The middle sister is the one that's constantly trying to keep the peace. She hates conflict. And the youngest sister, she is known as the star of the family. Everyone in the town loves her. She's the prettiest one, as said by the book. It's just made known in the book that she's the most loved one. These 3 sisters have just always been so close regardless, but then a crime happens within the town, and the youngest sister's husband is accused of the crime, and it kind of just tears the entire family apart. It's this like whole huge thing in the town, and everyone is on different sides. Yeah, you kind of just go through the story from there, and I really enjoyed this. I didn't expect to. It started off like 2 chapters in, I was like, I have no idea where this is gonna go. And at first it also felt like it was just gonna be a bunch of family drama, which I loved. I was enjoying it, but then it also got so deep and emotional and honestly a little bit dark. Like, I remember I was reading this on the plane and I was fighting for my life trying not to cry. There were the tiniest little twists and turns that I didn't expect in this book, and I don't know, I just didn't see a lot coming. I was completely hooked when I was reading this book. A lot of the issues that they have with their father is, I don't know, it could be relatable to someone. I'm not gonna say that it was relatable to me, but you know, could be relatable to someone. I think that I've realized that foreshadowing is something that I really enjoy in books, because when I read Beartown by Frederick Backman, I remember the foreshadowing in that book was crazy and I enjoyed it so much, and there was a bit of that in this book too, and I loved it. If that's something that Kristin does, I think I would really enjoy more of her writing. I immediately went out and bought more of her books after reading this one. I just instantly wanted to read more from her, and you'll see more of her books in my TBR. I just feel like she has such a great way of telling a story and making it feel so real, in the way that she portrays real life issues. I really enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed the ending message of this book and the bigger picture of it all, and I won't say anything because spoilers, but I really enjoyed it. I had a great time reading it. I loved the message, and so I gave this book 4.75 stars. The only reason that I took a little bit off is because I kind of felt like the ending deserved a bigger blowout. I mean, that's just me wanting more drama, and you see, that's a me problem. That's why it's not like me taking a lot of stars off or anything. It's just, I kind of expected a little bit more at the ending, but yeah, 4.75 stars is still amazing. I had an amazing time reading this. Most of the time I was reading it, it was feeling like a 5-star read, but as I said, the ending, I feel like could have been a little bit better. So yeah, 4.75 stars. The next book I read is Magnolia Parks, Into the Dark, and I've actually been putting off this book like all year long. I literally had it pre-ordered. It arrived like a day after it was released, and I still did not read it. It's been months, and I was just putting it off because if you know anything about this series, it's about this couple that they break up and they rekindle like 500 times, and they go through so much. There's just so much drama in their lives, and I was just never rooting for the main male character BJ, and I just felt like he was gonna win in this book, so I was putting it off. But I finally decided to read it, and it was so good. I forgot how much I love this world and how much I love these characters, even though I think they're absolutely insane. I remember when I picked this book up, I cried like 30 pages into it. This book is over 700 pages, and I was like 30 pages in and I'm already emotional. How am I gonna feel by the end of this? And yeah, it definitely was an emotional roller coaster, and it didn't feel like 700 pages at all. That's how you know the book is good. Like, it just flew by within 2 days, and I look up, I'm like, I can't believe it's over. I feel like describing the main theme of this book is a huge spoiler for the other books, but if you know what happens at the end of the previous book, like, she has to deal with that. And I won't say it because, as I said, it's a huge spoiler for the entire series, and I know a lot of people say what the main theme is, but if you haven't found out what it is yet, I won't say it. I won't be the one to spoil it for you, but I really did enjoy the exploration of that theme, and I really did enjoy just seeing the people in this book heal and finally grow up. If you're on the earlier books of this series and you're thinking these people are crazy, I don't know if I could continue this, they're so toxic, please stick with them. I swear they grow and it gets better, and I don't know, maybe I'm just too attached. But I really feel like a lot of people could see it getting better, especially when you start learning about Daisy hates and Julian hates and just how they all connect. I don't know. I feel like you should really decide if you want to cut this series off after reading at least the first 2 books. But if not, definitely get to this one. It's so good. Also, if you're a Julian girl like me and you've been avoiding this book, you should go read it anyway. You'll get some closure. I feel like this book was really the closure that I needed. One of my all-time favorite shows is One Tree Hill, and one of the reasons for that is because the growth that Nathan Scott has, the character development that Nathan Scott has in that show is just, there has been no better character growth on TV than Nathan Scott, and I will not argue with a wall. But I feel like BJ reminded me of that so much. Reading this book, I kind of wish I was rooting for him the entire time, because what it must feel like to be rooting for BJ this entire time and then you read this book. I literally take back every bad thing I've ever said about him. He was so amazing in this book, and yeah, it gives the growth of Nathan Scott. So if you want to feel that feeling, read the Magnolia Parks series and make sure you stick to it and get to book 5. I obviously gave this a 5-star. This is a 5-star series for me. There isn't a single book in this series that I rated lower than 5 stars, so please go read it. The next book I read is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and I feel like everyone knows what this book is. Like, even if you don't know what it's about and you don't care, you've at least heard of it. I'm not gonna lie, this is also one that I've kind of been putting off because I didn't expect it to live up to the hype, but I actually really enjoyed it. This book is about a college for dragon riders, and you can be in either one of 2 quadrants. You can be in the scribe quadrant or you can be in the writers quadrant, and the scribe quadrant is just people who are doing the research. They're amongst books and history. They're more so focused on reporting stuff for the war and kind of helping them with the war in more of a theoretical sense. But the writers who go off to train in the writers quadrant for the actual war, they're going to be the ones on the front lines, and they are going to be participating in the war in a more of a practical way. So the main character, Violet, she spent her entire life expecting to be in the scribe quadrant, but then last minute her mom, who's the commanding general, she forces her to go in the writers quadrant, and everyone just kind of thinks that she's gonna die because she just isn't very prepared for this. She hasn't prepared for it all her life. Everyone sees her as a weak person. She has to train extra hard because she kind of just doesn't have that natural capability. And then also people are trying to kill her because her mother is the commanding general. So she has a lot going on. Like, could you imagine she's just trying her best to survive and learn how to survive, and everyone's just trying to kill her constantly? I feel like this is the perfect book to get into fantasy because the world was so easy to learn. Like, I am not the biggest on fantasy. I've read a couple before this one, and most of them were YA. I've been avoiding adult fantasy because I feel like I'm not gonna get it, but this is so easy to understand. And as a beginner, I absolutely loved it, and I flew through it. I never wanted to put it down. Every time I was doing something else, I wanted to be reading this. There are lots of twists and turns that I didn't see coming in this book, and I think the book is perfectly paced. Like, it's not too fast-paced and it's not too slow. Like, we get what we need, and then when it comes to the end, it wraps up nicely and gets you excited for the next book. I think what was perfect with me in reading this book is that I was very good at avoiding spoilers, and even slight discussions of people being like, the ending was crazy, this, that, and I just didn't see anything coming. Anything anyone had to say, I never really saw. Anytime people spoke about this book, I was just avoiding it. And at first it was because I was genuinely not interested, and then I kind of got a little bit interested, and I still was like, okay, now I'm purposely avoiding it so that I don't see any spoilers. And going into this book completely blind it's what you need to do. If you haven't heard anything about it yet, well, I guess I just told you a lot about it. But if you're in the position where you haven't heard a lot of people saying lots of things about it, because I think a lot of people kind of struggle to talk about a book without actually spoiling things, because I really haven't given anything away. There's a lot that I haven't mentioned. You should definitely still go pick it up while you're a little bit clueless, because being clueless and going into this, I feel like that made me enjoy it the most. I have to say that I agree with the hype, and I think it deserves the hype that it gets. I feel like a lot of seasoned fantasy readers don't love this as much, but I had an amazing time, and if you're new to fantasy, you should definitely try it out. I gave this book 5 stars, and I can't wait to read Iron Flame, hoping that it gets picked for my TBR today. The next book I read is Alone with You in the Ether by Olive Blake, and this book is about 2 people who meet at the Chicago Art Institute, and Aldo is a doctoral student at the university. He's a really interesting person who controls his compulsive thoughts by thinking about time travel and doing these insane calculations in his head. And Regan, on the other hand, is a counterfeit artist who she has to go to these court-appointed therapy sessions because, well, she's been caught before with the counterfeit stuff. After meeting at the Art Institute, they become very intrigued by each other and decide to have only 6 conversations, and after that, they're never gonna speak again, but obviously they start to get to know each other and they start spending more time with each other and they start falling in love. These 2 are such interesting characters to read about, and they're so complex. I feel like if I met people like this, I would love them, but also just absolutely hate them. They were very, very intriguing to read about. This book is so character driven, and even though it's only 262 pages, I feel like I went through a lot with them, and I absolutely loved it. I think it's beautifully written. I was listening along to the audiobook a lot of the times that I was reading this, and the audiobook is actually so good. The way that it's paced. You know, sometimes the pacing of an audiobook is just bad, and the way that they're exaggerating things is just bad. I think the audiobook was so perfect. If you want to listen to it, you could do that, but I recommend listening to it and reading it. I was annotating so many things in this book, and I enjoyed Olive Blake's writing. I think I would read more by her. A very short book, but it definitely packed a punch, and I also gave this book 5 stars. There's a theme here that I just enjoyed every book that I read in September. It was such an amazing reading month, and yeah, this book is no different. Another 5-star read for me. I was having an amazing time, and I also read this book so quickly. Another thing that I realized, when I'm busy or when things are happening in my regular life, it affects how I feel about a book. Sometimes it ruins a book for me if I can't focus on it, and I was so busy while I was reading this, but I still had an amazing time reading it. The last book that I read in October was Between Friends and Lovers, and this was another book that I was really looking forward to. Immediately after hearing people talk about this and hearing what they're saying it's about and how the characters are, I knew that that's something that I would absolutely love. And then also seeing people like Emily Henry call it a beautiful, emotionally generous, good-hearted book, I knew that it would be something that I would love. I love Emily Henry's writing, and I feel like this is similar in a way that it's a romance book, but the characters also have stuff going on in their own personal lives that are discussed in the book. I feel like sometimes romance books can just be so focused on romance and barely focused on anything else. Do you have a life outside of said romance? What's going on in your life outside of you meeting this guy or you meeting this girl? And these are my favorite type of romance books, where almost the romance is, it's second fiddle to the crazy stuff that's going on in their lives. So I had really high hopes for this book, and it definitely didn't disappoint. This book is about Jo, who's a social media influencer, and she also has her medical degree. So on social media, she talks about medical topics without using lots of medical jargon. She tries to make it accessible and easy for the average person like us to understand. Things that we would find ourselves Googling about our healthcare that even though we Google it, we don't understand it, or we Google it and it ends up telling us that we're either pregnant or we have the most extreme disease in the world. You know, she makes it easy and accessible to understand our medical issues, and she kind of just also brings a lot of awareness to women's sexual health and everything. This is what she uses her social media for. I absolutely love that aspect of the book. I love that social media wasn't seen as this really shallow thing that is useless. I feel like sometimes social media can be put in that light, and social media influencers can just end up being so shallow in books, but she definitely wasn't. Anyway, other than who Jo is, went off on a rant about Jo because I absolutely loved our main character. She has this best friend named Ezra who she's known since she was in college, and they've always been so close, but she is in love with him. This happens within the first chapter. It's at the back of the book. It's not a spoiler. She's in love with him, and that kind of becomes known to the both of them, and he doesn't return these feelings. He doesn't say it back. They don't just run off and live happily ever after in the first chapter. So they're kind of in a fight because of this, and she's like, I need to move on. I need to like live my own life. I need to be open to meeting new people and talking to new people. I can't just continue living my life waiting for Ezra. That really sets up the book for what it is, because from there she meets Malcolm, who is this really successful author. They end up really liking each other, and they end up hanging out a lot. And I think what's really interesting about this book is that Malcolm, as an author, he's meant to have social media, and his team is like pushing him to use social media more, and he's just a little bit more reserved, and he's shy about it. He doesn't know what to do. He's not very good at it, and Jo kind of helps him. But there's just so much more that happens. Like, I'm telling you the basis of the story, and I promise you I'm not telling you too much. There's so much that goes on from there. It goes deeper into Jo and her own mental health issues and her relationship with her mother, and then we obviously continue seeing her relationship with Ezra. How did it become affected by this revelation in the first chapter? And we get to see her getting to know Malcolm more. Just everything. I love everything about this book. I love the journey it took me on. When I finished this book, and this is how I know that it's a good book, when I finished the book, I miss the characters as if they're real people. It happened to me when I read Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. I finished it, I'm like, why did I finish it so fast? Like, I missed them. I wish I was still in that world. I would love to see more of them, but it definitely did end nicely and wrapped up well. So also, if you hate love triangles and you think that that's what it's gonna be, because just based on the cover I felt like that's what it was gonna be, I guess in some sense maybe, but also I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I think if you hate love triangles, you could still tolerate this book, and you definitely should tolerate it for all the other reasons that I've mentioned. You should definitely tolerate it to meet Jo, because she's an amazing character, and even though she has all of her own struggles, I feel like the way that she deals with certain things in like social settings and in her workplace, she's someone to look up to. I absolutely adored her as a character, but then also I think I could just relate to some of the things she was going through. And then Malcolm, if you like any of Abby Jimenez's like male main characters, and we love how they're like the acts of service kings, Malcolm is also one of those. So you need to go meet Malcolm. Like, forget about the love triangle and just go into this book for the amazing characters, go into this book for the amazing writing, because the writing was so good, and I immediately want to read this author's other book. I think it's called On Rotation. I love when authors are like, whatever their original profession is, they put it into their books, because I'm pretty sure this author is actually a doctor herself. Both of her books, the main characters are doctors, and I think Frida McFadden does that too. Like, she's also a doctor, and she makes, or a surgeon or something of the sort, something in the medical field, and she makes her main characters also end up being in the medical field. I love when authors do that. They're writing about what they know, and as you should. What I love about this author is it's just done in such a accessible way. Like, I never felt like I was confused. I never felt like it went too deep into medical stuff and just talking about med school and anything like that, because I would probably get bored. But yeah, nothing like that. She did such an amazing job at keeping this book, I don't know, on my level. And if it isn't obvious, this is an easy 5-star, such an easy 5-star, and this is my 4th 5-star read in 1 month. 4 5-star reads in a row. It felt great to read this and also think that this was a 5-star book, because yeah, I was just having the best time reading in September. The thing about me is that I'm used to reading at least like 6 books. When I read 6 books, it's because I'm in a reading slump, and like my average is 9 books. I'm not in a reading slump whatsoever. I only read 5 books. That's it, by the way. That's my entire reading wrap up. But I never felt like I was in a reading slump, because every time I wanted to read, I did pick up a book and I read easily. And every time I did pick up a book to read, I was enjoying the book thoroughly. I think I was just a little bit busier in September, so I only read 5 books, but they were such amazing books. My lowest rating this month was 4.75 stars, so it really doesn't get any better than this. If you haven't read any of these books yet, I obviously highly recommend them. Please go read them. Okay, so now I'm going to be choosing my October TBR using the TBR jar prompts, and I'm actually going to pick all of the prompts first and then go through my stack and pick the books. I don't know, I always just feel like that's the best way for me to do it, so let's start. So the first prompt is an author you know you love. I love this prompt. I love this one. The jar's being nice to me today. I feel like the first one is always a good prompt and then it kind of goes downhill from there, so. The second one, an author you've never read. Okay. I think I have a cup for this one too. Did I say that I'm choosing 6 prompts, by the way? 6 prompts, 6 books on my TBR. Even though I've never finished a TBR, last month I did 5 out of 6, so I'm almost there. I'll always do 6 books. Kindle choice. This is perfect because sometimes I feel like I neglect my Kindle when I'm trying to finish my TBR. So this is great. So we picked 3. This is the 4th one. Fantasy. The jar is being very lovely to me today. Fantasy is what I need. Something spooky. Again, perfect for the season. This almost feels too good to be true. I feel like for that prompt, I actually want to choose from my sister's shelf because she has mystery thrillers that I want to read. So maybe we'll do that. Okay, so the last one. God, my hand's getting stuck in there. Is this true? Okay, no, it's not. The lowest rated book on your TBR. When I was writing these, I actually already went through and I know what this one is. This one isn't a choice. It's actually Big Swiss, which I'm excited about. I actually wanted to read that book too. All right, so let's just start with the lowest rated book on your TBR. It's actually Big Swiss by Jen Began, and yeah, this isn't really a choice, so this is what I have to read, and I'm actually really excited about this. I think I just have a lot of books on my TBR right now that's very highly rated. I have some new releases, so the newer it is, like, I feel like the ratings stay quite high. I have books in series. If you're reading like a 3rd book in a series, you're probably rating it pretty high, so I also have like classics and stuff on here. Again, rated highly. So I'm not too worried about this, even though it's the lowest rated book on my TBR. I don't see this as a bad choice. It's still on my TBR. It's still something that I really want to read. So let's just go back over these randomly and I'll choose an author you've never read. Okay. Kristin Hannah, I've read. This is a choice. Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. This is a choice. Mad Honey is definitely a choice. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, that's also a choice. What a Happy Family, this is also a choice. The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson was an art that I got sent, and yeah, also another choice because I've never heard of this author before being sent this arc. Yeah, so I think those are my choices. Oh, I think I want to go for The Serpent and the Wolf. Should I? Yeah, I think that's the one that I want to put on my October TBR. Another fantasy, because for a fantasy prompt, I have to choose a different one. So the prompt, an author you know you love, I feel like this one's actually going to be hard because as I just raved about Kristin Hannah, we have 2 of her books here. And then we have Sally Rooney's new release. I have never rated any Sally Rooney book lower than 4.5. So I'm really excited about this one. It might just, as I'm like speaking to you right now, I'm realizing that it has to be this one. But another choice would have been Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I absolutely loved Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and this is also a book that I really want to get to in October. But it doesn't have to be on my TBR for me to get to it. So yeah, I'm definitely putting the Sally Rooney one. It has to be Sally Rooney, right? Yeah. Why do I feel like every time I do a TBR jar thing, it's like chaotic? I don't know why, and I feel like that's why I'm putting it with my wrap up this month, so it's not just one lonely chaotic video. So for the prompt fantasy, I already know what I'm gonna choose, but I'm gonna pretend that I don't know and show you the options anyway. So we have A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. But yeah, that's what it's called. A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. We have Reckless by Lauren Roberts. We have Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is gonna be like the first book I read in October, so I'm sorry. And a lot of people have been telling me to read A Court of Mist and Fury, and I swear I will get to it, but I just have to know what happens next in this series. I obviously had such a good time. I have to keep it going. So for the prompt, a Kindle choice, I am gonna look through my Kindle right now and show you what I have Phantasma on here, but I don't want too much fantasy. I have In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife. I think that's Dark Academia, which would be great for this season. I have A Man Called Ove. I have Night Road by Kristin Hannah. That's one that I was really interested in when I looked it up. Firefly Lane, I'm interested in that, but I'm not ready to read it yet. Like, if I had to choose one, I would definitely go for Night Road. I have Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. I have been waiting to read this, but I keep forgetting that it exists because out of sight, out of mind. Every time I go to read, I'm like, I need to get through my physical TBR, or I just go look on my shelf and pick something up. So I haven't been good about reading on my Kindle, so I'm glad that I got that prompt actually. I have Boy Parts, Acts of Desperation. I have random things on here that my Kindle is doing that thing where it's like randomly updating. It's just updating on its own. Like, oh my god, like now of all times that you choose to do that. But it also did this recently. I don't know. Let's wait, shall we? You know what? Let's move on to the next one. Something spooky. Honestly, the only book that I have that's spooky on my own shelf is God of the Woods. Are you joking? When I say every time I do a TBR jar video, it's just chaotic. Anyway, the only thing that I have spooky that is on my own shelf is The God of the Woods, and I don't know if I'm ready to read this yet. Also, this book is set in the summertime, and I don't really mind like reading it in October, even though it's set in the summertime. It's about this summer camp or something, but I think it's spooky, so I would have a good time reading it either way. But I, for some reason, want to read something from my sister's shelf. She just has a collection of mystery thriller type books, and so I will be right back. Okay, so I got 3 books from my sister's collection, and I have Don't Let Her Stay by Nicola Sanders, and I have The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapine. I've actually heard such good things about this one. And I have One by One by Frida McFadden. You see, I know Frida McFadden, and I know that I like Frida McFadden, but I'm pretty sure also all of her books are on Kindle Unlimited. So maybe I won't read this one. Actually, let me see what it's about. No. I think I'm going with this one. It's so tiny. Yes, I'm choosing, actually, is this spooky? It looks spooky. When I say something spooky, I'm pretty much just thinking like mystery thriller. Like, it doesn't have to be horror, anything that's like suspicious, anything like that, anything under the mystery thriller horror type of genre. I just don't really have any of that, and so I'm choosing this one. I'm choosing The Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapine. This is my sister's book. She's raved about it. I'm pretty sure she gave it 5 stars, so I'll see if she has good taste. Okay, so the Kindle is back. The Kindle is back. I'm thinking that I'm going to do In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, just because I feel like it's good for the season, it's good for the time. These are my 3 options. The 3 that I'm thinking the most is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, and Night Road by Kristin Hannah, and Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Those are the 3 that I'm like really thinking about the most. Also, I kind of wanted to do a video where I read new releases, and Wild Eyes would be a new release. New enough. I can't decide. The jar is supposed to help me to decide things easier. I'm struggling here. So looking at my pile of books here, I just realized that I don't have any like just straight romance books. Like, obviously these 2 books are romancy romance fantasy books, but I don't have any just straight up romance books, so I think I'm gonna go with Wild Eyes. Also, that's the type of book where I definitely won't be purchasing it. I've never purchased any of Elsie Silver's books because they're all on Kindle Unlimited, so I think that's a perfect choice. So just to go through my picks again, a Kindle choice will be Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Something Spooky will be A Couple Next Door by Sherry Lapina. My choice for fantasy is Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. An Author You Know You Love, Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, her newest release. I am so excited for this. For the prompt, An Author You Never Read, I chose The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson. And the lowest rated book on my TBR is Big Swiss, so that one I didn't really have a choice, but I'm still happy about it anyway. So this is my October TBR along with Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, and I think it's gonna be a good one. If you got to this point of the video, please tell me what's on your October TBR. Tell me what was your favorite book of September. Did you have a good reading month? Just tell me about your September reading month. Tell me about what you want to read in October. I would love to know, and it'll give me more ideas for what I should put on my TBR. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!